How's it going, YouTube? Coming in today with another video, and today, guys, what I bring to you is going to be the guide to the NAWCQ, and this is my favorite time of year. This is what everything you have worked for comes up to, and it is such an insane event. So many players and such a huge hall that we're usually in, and it's a ton of fun. There's so much to do, so many people to see, and such an achievement to feat. It's an amazing experience, and I just implore you, if you've never been to Nationals, go to Nationals. It's a great time. Today's video is going to focus on how to do really well at Nationals, things to think about at Nationals, and how I feel like our meta is going to go, the things that you should be focusing on going into the NAWCQ. If you haven't already checked my sponsors over on RW, Cloud, Gem, Arla, Imperium, Dragonshield, or Grimoire, definitely go ahead and do so down below in the description. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already so we can hit 30,000. I would appreciate it so much. I'm so excited to hit 30,000, even 25, which is right around the corner. It's going to be an amazing time. Thank you all so much for the continued support. And let's hop right on in to the guide to the NAWCQ. The first thing I have for you today is going to be the best decks 1 to 10. Starting off with Mitsurugi Raizel. We already know this deck is super fantastic. It's something that can just break through many interruptions, play through many interruptions. The deck itself is very consistent. It does have its times where it can brick, but more often than not, the deck is able to just turbo through most scenarios, which is pretty crazy. We have Malice. Even if it's really targeted with things like Chaos Hunter and Lancia, the deck is still being able to push through pretty far and do really well. It is the best Game 1 deck that we have for going first. You just put up a nasty board, and that's just been true for Malice since it's begun. But now we also have a new deck in the fray, and by new, I mean like new, right? We got Habakiri, and then the deck got a little more solved, but we have pure Mitsurugi. This deck is really solid. The grind game's crazy, Impulse, Wusu. It has a lot to it. It has a lot of legs and a lot of things that you gotta kind of chip away at and work around, maneuver when you're playing against it, because there's just so many different avenues this deck has. Even things like Magatama, which makes it really awkward because they can just kind of tribute and pop, or they can just like Regeki your board, or Ritual Summon on your turn. And then they actually play Futso in this build as well, which can just like keep turboing everything back to the board. And the grind game is pretty crazy, so that's something where you really want to make sure that you have a good answer to this. Blue Eyes, more so the Primate cards, is really popular right now as well, and the deck is still doing pretty alright, and even Purge being in the deck too does help out the deck a little bit more. I do like this deck still right now into the meta. I think that it is still going to be a pretty scary deck to play against at times, because if they are able to set up everything and do like Drill Beam control, we already know how good that card is, and it can get kind of messy when you're trying to deal with that in a loop, and it keeps getting reset, and it's kind of hard to play against sometimes, so think about that too, because this is the first time in any format I've ever seen Blue Eyes put up like multi-negations, which is crazy, but you know, it is a deck, so be prepared. The next one at number 5 here is Memento. Make sure you know what this deck does. It is super scary. If you do not know how this deck interacts, you are going to get your board blown up like 2 or 3 times. And, you know, this is one of those things where if you do not know what you're doing, this deck can steal games from you quick. Akihiron being able to make you attack directly and then just swinging 8k direct is kind of crazy, and it's something that can catch you off guard real quick. And same with Mace in hand being a snatch steal. Really got to understand what this deck does. I have decks 6 to 10 as well. So the first one here is Crystron. I think this deck is so fantastic. It has so many different avenues and things that it can do, meaning triple droplet, triple super poly. The amount of flexibility in the deck is crazy. The amount of just like go, go, go the deck has to just like burn through boards is really cool too. I like this deck a lot. I think Tristeros is crazy. I think the Horus cards are crazy. I think this is a really solid pick. Mermail and White Forest being number 7, number 8. Mermail having the anti-magic arrows is really scary because, again, if you don't really know this is coming, this is something that will catch you off guard completely. And if you're playing the Featherstorm in Raizel, please shotgun it. There's no reason to hold it. Just shotgun it. Then I've seen so many people even lose to anti-magic arrows because they didn't shotgun it, which is crazy. And then White Forest, it's had some tops. It's had some wins. Okay, it's number 8 on the list. Number 9 is going to be Regenesis Cash or Regenesis Bestial. I think this deck is really solid. It has a lot of playability right now. Even Vanquish Regenesis is really good, so you got to think about that as well. Then Fire King. Fire King is a very interesting deck. Again, it doesn't really care about cards getting popped. It actually wants cards to get popped. It has a lot of room for non-engine. You can play a lot of the Charmies. You can play Impulse. There's a lot of good to come out of this deck as well. So if you're not prepared for this deck either, it can really catch you off guard as well. We have a ton of Legacy support coming out before the NAWCQ, including Punk, Orchist, Dragon Maid, Nekroz, and Vanquish Soul. So we already know a lot about what these decks do now. I'd be having my eyes on Orchist and Vanquish Soul because both these decks can be very scary even before we get the Canine cards. So these are things that can still do a lot of damage into a format. The other ones, I'm not convinced, but I do think that some of these could have somewhat of an impact on our tournament moving forward. When we talk about siding optimization, this is something that you really got to understand as far as when you're looking at a top 10 deck meta going into an event. And this is realistically just like a top 5. The other ones aren't too relevant. But you do want to make sure that your side is as optimal as possible going into the event so that you have a wide spread of different counters for different matchups. So we have 3 Lancia, 3 Thrust, 1 Gnome, and 2 to 3 Salesman in the main or in the side. Salesman has been such a pivotal card lately, just because you can call anything. You can call Impulse, you can call Droll, you can call Lancia, you can call Imperm, right? Like, you can call anything. When you're going second into Malice, you can literally just call Whitebinder, and then your opponent just can't use it, and it's like, wow, that's kind of crazy, right? So there's a couple different things that you can do. But I really do like Thrust and Gnome right now. Gnome is just absurd. You can use it against Kristron. You can use it against any of the Mitsu or the Ryziel or the combined deck, of course. And other rogue matchups that could really be hurt by like the level not being there, right? So definitely a very interesting one nonetheless. And then also, sleeper best side card that's been showing up in so many winning and topping deck lists lately is Mistaken Arrest. This is a huge point that I want to make for you right now. If you have Perulia, if you have Mistaken Arrest, please stop shotgunning it in the draw phase. When you get to the draw phase, it's your opponent's turn, right? And then your opponent goes draw phase, and you go, that's fine. Wait till they go to standby. Because if they have something like Prayer, they're going to use it in draw because they want to play around Droll. Right? So you go, I'll pass priority in draw phase. And when they rip Prayer, you can chain Mistaken Arrest, or you can chain Perulia, because your opponent's going to have to tribute and then try to summon from grave if they want to avoid you from getting a draw. But it makes things very awkward on your opponent as well. So that's something to really consider going into the next format, is that Mistaken Arrest is going to be around for a long time. More just for optimizing your hand trap count, I think that 15 to 18 is going to be ideal. This is like the comfort zone to make sure that you have enough and you have the best opportunity to draw 2. And this is going to be really important because even if you put up like a half board, having 2 hand traps to back that is absolutely insane. Especially if it's like Ash Imperm, right? Or like Imperm, Nibiru, Ash, Droll. There's so many different ways that you can just get like crazy combinations that'll end your opponent's turn. So 15 to 18, in my opinion, is going to be the most optimal, and this is something that you should really aim for in your deck building going into the NAWCQ. Now, Muals is definitely one of the weirdest Charmies because you're either not playing it at all or you're playing 3 in the side, but never in the main deck. Fua and Perulia have been seeing a ton of play lately in the main deck at 3 and 3 or 3 and 2. So this is something that we're seeing quite often. I think for the best experience at Nationals, you're going to want to play all 9, just because this is in the most amount of topping and winning deck list. This is going to be something that is pretty obvious in nature. You just draw a ton of cards and tell your opponent to stop playing, right? So that's something to really think about. I do think that these cards are really important going into the event, and they are going to be a necessity if you want to do well. So the other point that I want to make today is you really want to prep for rounds 5 to 9 and not 1 to 4. This is something really important, even for just regionals. You will overstress yourself on decks like Voiceless Voice or Melodious if you just are randomly fearing those, right? Like, let's say it was like Fuanderies that you're like, I really don't want to play against this deck. If I play against it, I'm going to lose, right? But you're not really focusing on Memento, Mitsurugi, Malice, Ryziel, right? Like, that's where the issue lies. You want to prep for the later rounds when you're playing against better decks. Your deck should just naturally handle things like Melodious, Voiceless Voice, Infernoble, whatever you run into that's just like irrelevant, right? you should naturally be able to handle that and just accept that, like, maybe you do play against that, but you know, you kind of just have to use your intuition to be able to break those boards to beat that deck. And if you run into like a crazy towers deck, then you probably just got varianced, right? But for the most part, you should always be focused on rounds 5 to 9 and not 1 to 4, because that is how you will mess up your deck building 10 out of 10 times. I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you haven't already checked out my Twitch, Twitter, Discord, Instagram, definitely go ahead and do so all down below in the description. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Thank you.